After revolutionary military leaders come to power in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, things have changed entirely. They brought a watershed moment for France, a major shock that has rattled France and French companies. The expulsion of French troops, corporations, and political influence from Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso has shattered France's economic stranglehold over the region. Only talking about one of the hundreds of companies. But with the rise of military-led governments in these nations and their firm rejection of French dominance, Air France was pushed out, cutting off one of its most lucrative revenue streams. The result has been a financial catastrophe, leaving the airline scrambling to regain access to the region.
Now, one nation has said, what wreaking havoc Air France. And now you can say French for Burkina Faso, some of them because most of the European economies are built on the sweat and the blood of the Africans. Yes. France, the way they are, Ivory Coast, Mali, Niger, those times, no, the beer was done by France in their country. For their gold, cocoa is being sold out to them, the rich reserves. And now Burkina Faso, no more. France is hot.
Hello, keep watching Xposed GH, the best channel on all of YouTube. Yes.
Hello, baby, I'll be at more why I Xposed GH FM Bros. Ibrahim Traore, you want to see you? Wama, the world has paid attention to Africa. Wama, Miss will say, oh, send a black, say your view is in Jimmy, sir. Now, one nation has said, what wreaking havoc Air France. And now you can say French for Burkina Faso, some of them because most of the European economies are built on the sweat and the blood of the African. Yes. France, the way they are, Ivory Coast, Mali, Niger, those times, no, the beer was done by France in their country. For their gold, cocoa is being sold out to them, the rich reserves. And now Burkina Faso, no more. France is hot. Now Air France, almost 65 million because they are being bad from going there.
Have you ever wondered why France has been so much involved in Africa, especially in the Sahel region? Former French President Jacques Chirac once said, France would become a third world country without Africa. Now, it seems to be happening as France and French corporations are facing massive losses after they have been kicked out from Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. Recently, it has been revealed that Air France has faced a collective loss of 65 million euros because it was kicked out of the Sahel region. The loss has been so painful that Air France wants to return to the Sahel region. However, Ibrahim Traore from Burkina Faso and other military leaders in Mali and Niger will never let that happen. So what desperate actions France is making for an immediate return to Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, and what losses it is facing? In this video, let's know about that. For decades, France relied on Africa as its economic backbone, extracting wealth while maintaining geopolitical leverage over the continent. However, after revolutionary military leaders come to power in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, things have changed entirely. They brought a watershed moment for France, a major shock that has rattled France and French companies. The expulsion of French troops, corporations, and political influence from Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso has shattered France's economic stranglehold over the region. Nowhere is this decline more visible than in the financial devastation faced by Air France, which has lost over 65 million euros since being forced out of the Sahel. For Air France, the Sahel was more than just another destination. It was a highly profitable monopoly. The airline generated staggering daily revenues, 500 million CFA francs from Mali, 430 million from Niger, and 390 million from Burkina Faso, adding up to over 2 million euros per day. This level of profit was a reflection of just how deeply France depended on the Sahel for economic survival. And we are only talking about one of the hundreds of companies. But with the rise of military-led governments in these nations and their firm rejection of French dominance, Air France was pushed out, cutting off one of its most lucrative revenue streams. The result has been a financial catastrophe, leaving the airline scrambling to regain access to the region. However, the new governments have made it clear that the era of France's unchecked exploitation is over. The revolutionary leaders of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger represent a new era of African governance, one that prioritizes sovereignty over submission. These leaders have taken bold steps to dismantle France's economic and military grip on their countries. That's because they know the reason France has leverage is because of the financial benefits it gets from Africa. If these are stopped, France will no longer have the financial backing that gives it international support. You should know that France has long maintained an image of economic strength and industrial power, but much of its success was built on resources it did not actually possess. Despite having little to no significant reserves of gold, uranium, and critical minerals, France remained a major exporter of these commodities for decades. These resources were not French, they were African. France extracted them from its former colonies, rebranded them as its own, and profited while African nations remained underdeveloped. One of the biggest examples of this exploitation was gold. France has no major gold mines, yet it exported vast quantities of the precious metal. The source has always been West African nations like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, where French companies controlled mining operations under unfair contracts. These deals ensured that African countries received only a small fraction of the wealth generated, while the gold was refined in France and sold as a French commodity. On this, Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni openly exposed France on live TV. Now, with Sahel nations reclaiming their resources and kicking out French companies, France's so-called gold exports have all but disappeared, revealing how dependent it was on African wealth. The same pattern applies to uranium, coltan, cobalt, and lithium, essential minerals for modern technology, electric vehicles, and batteries. France does not have significant reserves of these minerals, yet it remains an important player in the high-tech industry. But that is changing. Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali's rejection of French influence is not just about political autonomy, but also about dismantling the structural economic dependence that kept Africa subservient to France. This movement gained momentum through a series of military coups that fundamentally altered the power dynamics in the Sahel. The overthrow of pro-French regimes was not merely about local politics, but an outright rejection of France's neo-colonial dominance. Paris reacted with fury, attempting to impose sanctions, severing diplomatic ties, and seeking to isolate the new governments. Yet these actions only accelerated France's downfall in the region. Instead of bowing to external pressure, the new leadership expelled French troops, shut down French embassies, and nationalized key industries that were once controlled by French corporations. Among the most symbolic and financially devastating blows was the removal of Air France, cutting off a major economic artery for France. For decades, Air France was more than just an airline. It was a strategic economic weapon, ensuring France's continued control over African air travel. The airline dictated flight routes, monopolized key connections, and extracted wealth from the region while reinvesting little into local economies. Air France maintained a near-total monopoly on flights between the Sahel and Europe, keeping fares artificially high while providing subpar services compared to other international carriers. This system funneled enormous sums of money out of Africa and into French corporate coffers, reinforcing France's economic grip on the region. However, when the revolutionary government seized power, they began to question why Air France was allowed to operate so freely while contributing so little to African nations. When the airline abruptly suspended flights in response to political changes, the Sahel nations responded by banning Air France from returning and exploring alternative partnerships. Mali's foreign minister Abdoulaye Diop openly criticized the airline's arrogance and exploitative business practices, exposing how it routinely canceled flights without accountability, stranding African passengers in Europe and elsewhere. He pointed out that such reckless behavior would never be tolerated in the US or other Western nations, Yet Air France felt it could do as it pleased in Africa. That era, he stated, is over. If Air France wants to return, it will stand in line like any other company, without privilege, without special treatment. France is no longer in control. Africa is.
I say, Sakwasia, Nenitia, na Agronegu. Time gone by, Africa was the dumping site for what they don't want. Could you imagine, say, Ghana, China for young prisoners, no? Now they want to integrate them. They can't find place that they bring them to Ghana to integrate them. Then we accept them. Oh, we are no by Galam say. And now Burkina Faso has shown the way. I say, I won't be a beggar. Because who be when any beer na adwini nyania ehon na bon say wagimi ache. What you say? And na France who say omo economy no man hwe ya ebe krepo na obi ye prophecy bi say the moment Sahel countries, Sahel West African countries, no, France, no, France will become a third republic, a very third world country. And who bought Djibouti anyway? France. The foundation of France is built upon our sweat and blood. No, I say, how much people are paying me to expose my people to stop what I'm doing. And I'm not making Ibrahim Noka.
You know how many compromises they're trying to make us accept here? How many proposals? If we had thought about the future, maybe today we would already be billionaires. Because there are so many big accounts.
Not suitcases often?
Suitcases. I'm going to give you 2 or 3 examples. When you take the Dunson's airport, when they come to negotiate with you, you have to sign so that they give you 5% over 30 years. If I accept, imagine that's how many billions. We're not going to mortgage the future of our country there. We're not done for that.
President, do you think about the pre-presidency of FASO? You said at the beginning that you don't like power because it brings problems. One day, are you saying that this matter should be resolved quickly so that I can return to my military life without anxiety, without constraints?
It's like you said, coming here, we didn't come with that objective. Now the people have given us a task. We have sworn not to betray the people. We are fulfilling our mission. What comes next is not our concern. Because if you think about your future, you can't govern our states. I can assure you of that. If you think about your future, if you're afraid, you can't govern in that state.
Do you want to be president for life, or what are you saying? President for life, do you think that's possible?
No, I am not someone else's wish. It's true we see it elsewhere. You're going to get tired.
What are you already tired of?
Oh. As long as I see the people standing, we are never tired. I'm telling you, it's a tough life. If you think about the future. Is it your own human future? You can't govern states. There is pressure. They put all sorts of pressure on you, threats, everything. We are here for the people. So you have insomnia every day? Insomnia? No insomnia. Because we're not afraid.
You see, Mami Kabibin Show, anytime a black man will stand up for himself, the white will kill that man. You know why? Because the black man possesses something that the white does not want them to know. It's Obi Obeka Chem said, I want independence in my mind. That person is being killed. Lolumba, you kunyaya. Nobody asset so that he will even be remembered. Our own Kwame Nkrumah, CIA, they eliminated him, gave him some shots. Thomas Sankara, young man, or starting and no, yes, no, this man has got brains. I say me change it because I want to give name here. For somebody to give you a new name means what? I want you to have what we call a new beginning. I say Burkina Faso means a land of what? Upright people. It means a land that said omotane. It's who I will hear me. It's time to change. Now, someone will say, I no woman yen here. That's it. Sikana omu edi mema trying is to make sure say he doesn't do what he wants to do because he has become a leader of Africa. Of course, AU said, catch on say, stop the hypocrisy. Stop being childish. Stop being stupid. Now you're making sure say we stand up for our people. How do you stand up for our people? It's not by riding in Pajaros and those stupid cars while your people wallow in poverty. It's not by going to hospital in abroad. Say the finance minister, or call hospital abroad. Wouldn't you be here? Stupidity at its highest level. Politicians, man, they go to school, US. While we our children suffer here. Mental slavery. And you this kind of saying we are near IMF for near Copa someone was yourself at the highest level. Meanwhile, when Akufo was in government, you said to one buy so by 50% and stop going to RCW, make keeping the government and still go to IMF. And then Jimmy. Okay, yes, me enka. Are we that dumb? You when you know you put your go forward to the sense we can, but no more. The people are rising. So I am warning the African leaders. Take note of what Ibrahim Traore is doing. Because man, yes, sir, we be a bano. Muntimi nyina. John Mahama, you started war. But my catchers and you may be away, no. Kwafobia don't chisha bemuno. And yet, I suppose you HFM members. Subscribe, share. You're the two partners I can be noisy.
Keep watching Xposed GH, the best channel on all of YouTube. Yes.